Hey everybody, this is Waldorf,
This is Statler
and today we're going to talk about line of sights.
for ranged attacks.
Yes, because it's slightly different for charging.
Yeah, we did it. We've already done a video on boundary rectangles and determining line of sight from those for charging and other
Correct.
things. So refer to that video for that.
All right, so line of sight. A model can draw a line of sight to its target or a point or model if you can extend a straight line from the front of its base directly to the target without the line leaving the front arc, being interrupted by opaque terrain, or being interrupted by the base of a model that has equal or bigger size than both the model and its target.
Right.
And there's a little bit, exceptions for tall and skirmishers. All very good, makes sense. Then we come to this last line, which is a little confusing. Models on round bases can use any point on their base from drawing line of sight. And then it, period. And it says, a line of sight interrupted in this way is said to be obscured. I think what they meant is something more like this.
We're pretty sure that it didn't mean that all round bases are obscured.
Correct. So I think the line of sight part of that sentence should have been here. So if you read it this way, anything that hits one of those clauses up there becomes obscured. And then as a footnote, kind of, models on round bases can use any point.
As opposed to their front. So,
Correct.
yeah, we think they just messed up. I mean, this thing's not written as well as you'd like anyway, but
Correct.
this is just a typo of sorts, a bad edit.
Yes. Moving on real quick. So just simple, there's a unit and it's line of sight.
Right. So it's based on the boundary rectangle unit front footprint and all that stuff.
Correct. The next thing I want to concentrate on is the last paragraph.
Of the same section.
Of the same section.
Yeah.
And this is when drawing a line of sight from several models inside a unit, this is done for each model independently. Line of sight cannot be drawn to targets outside the unit's front arc. So you have to measure from each individual model separately, but it still cannot go outside the unit's front arc. And models never block line of sight to other models within the same unit. Was asked me the other day. A mage can, if he can manage to get a mage into the second rank, he still has a line of sight.
Or third rank.
Or any rank other than one. So here's an example of that.
Or the 10th rank.
So here we have an individual model in a unit. There's his line of sight. It says, when drawing line of sight from several models inside a unit, this is done for each model independently. Again, kind of a sentence that needed to be a little bit reworked.
Right.
It makes a little bit more sense to me, at least, if they would have just said, each model inside a unit must draw a line of sight independently.
Right. So we have the blue 45 degrees, which is the unit's line of sight. Then we have the brown 45-degree lines, which is the theoretical individual model's line of sight.
Correct. So in case
However,
if you had a character or something.
If you had a character farther back.
However, because of the rule that says it cannot extend outside the unit's line of sight, it cannot use the brown line of sight on the left-hand side.
In this example, because it's outside of the unit's line of sight.
Correct. So
if you had an archer back there, or you had or a mage.
A mage trying to cast a spell.
Right. You can't do anything in that little zone right there.
Correct. His zone actually extends from the blue on the left to the brown on the right. Is his line of sight.
Right.
He doesn't get this extra line of sight for the unit on this side and loses the line of sight on this side.
Right.
So it narrows his line of sight down to what you're seeing here.
Yep.
Moving on, just to give you a little bit of example, here we have a unit on the bottom trying to shoot
5 archers. I'm sorry, unit of
12, 4, 5, 6, 7, 14.
14 archers.
14 archers want to shoot with a single model up on the top right. I extended the line of sights out to them.
At the individual model level.
Those 5 models in orange, brown, are the only ones that can fire at the model.
Right. While the unit can see, so they could charge the model.
That is correct. But only those 5 can fire at it because you have to measure each determine the line of sight for each model
Right.
independently.
And the third guy in the back he's basically on the same axis as the second guy, because at the 45 degree on a square base, it just carries through.
Correct. This line would extend down to his
Right.
base. So, and that's it. That's the that's what line of sight is.
Correct.
Now, the only reason I'll mention here as well, if you haven't seen the other video we've done, is the reason for this for ranged attacks. The reason for that exception is charging is based on line of sight to a unit's boundary rectangle,
Right.
not its footprint. So that is an exception to the rule you have to know about.
Exactly. Which we hope they do away with one way or the other.
Set it on one or the other.
Yes.
would be my request.
Absolutely.
Anyway, so that's going to do it. Thanks for listening.
Till next time.